night at the Winnipeg Art Gallery's Muriel Richardson Auditorium, Winnipeg's GroundSwell will present their third concert of this 2019-2020 season. The concert is called The Naked Voice and will feature the vocalist Helen Pridmore performing works by Canadian composers such as Martin Arnold, Emily Doolittle, Jennifer Butler, and Anna Sokolovich. Tomorrow night's program has been curated by Winnipeg New Music champion and composer Diana McIntosh, who has put together a program that includes multimedia elements such as tape, video, electronics, and even a duet with Humpback Whale. Joining me here in the Classic 107 studios is Diana McIntosh and Helen Pridmore. Welcome to our Classic 107 studios.
Thank you. Thank you.
Diana, I want to first of all start with you. This is a very special concert for you, not only because you're the curator of the concert, but also because this is going to be your last season with GroundSwell. You were one of the original founding members of the GroundSwell organization. Can you briefly tell us about how GroundSwell started in Winnipeg?
Yeah. By the way, actually the last concert that GroundSwell has presented, they asked me if I'd like to do a solo concert of my own music in April, and that is actually the last concert, and it's a great honor because they're going to honor me for some reason or other at that concert. Yeah, about 33 or 34 years ago, I founded what I called music inter alia, which means music among other things because I like to feature theatrical works.
Right.
And I founded that and ran it virtually myself. I had a little board. It's not as big a concern as GroundSwell back then by any means, but it was a success, and we had about three or four concerts a year. And so I founded that, and I ran that for 20 years, I think. I don't. Maybe it was 15 or 16, and then I was approached by three other composers in the city to if I would like to join them and start up GroundSwell, and so I'm one of the founding members along with them for GroundSwell, and it's been fascinating, but for quite a few reasons. I feel the time has come that I'd like to resign from there because I'm doing a lot of other things. So I'm going to miss it. But I'm very fond of these. And the interesting thing is about GroundSwell is that all four of us, so there are four artistic directors in GroundSwell, all four of us are radically different in our writing from each other. Very different. And that makes, because we each can have one of our works on each season. And it makes for a lot of variety. It's very interesting.
Right, and each one of the concerts is curated by a different composer.
Yeah.
Which is
so I have been an artistic director for 28 years, I believe.
Oh, wow.
That's a long time of GroundSwell. You'd think I'd know what I'm doing by now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I want to talk about tomorrow night's concert and tomorrow night's program. It's got a great title, The Naked Voice. How did you go about curating this concert and putting the music together?
Well, that's Helen Pridmore. It's a very interesting program. It's called The Naked Voice because she never uses an accompanist. She sings a cappella. She sings on her own. She never uses an accompanist. I presume that's the main reason, and it's a wonderful title. I think The Naked Voice, and it's a pretty interesting program. And maybe Helen could tell you a little bit about that.
Sure. If you want to turn the mic over to Helen.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much for having me here for this interview, and thanks to Diana for inviting me to do this show. It's really exciting. So yeah, The Naked Voice is a program of music for voice alone. I guess I'm lying a little bit because a couple of the pieces have electronic accompaniment to them, but there's no piano or the sort of traditional instruments that go along with voice. And this is a kind of program I've been doing for a while now. About 10 years probably I've had various programs that are just voice. And it's fascinating to me. It means you explore all the different possible sounds that a human voice can make, which I really enjoy exploring.
Yeah, and there can be this great combination, especially with tape and just these multimedia things that have been incorporated into the concert that can create these great textures. Mm-hmm. I understand, Helen, that you're performing a piece by Anna Sokolovich. Am I saying that right?
That's correct.
You're doing her opera for solo voice called Love Songs. Can you tell us about this piece?
Yeah, it's a really beautiful piece. It's about 40 minutes in length, and it explores the idea of love from various angles. So the love of a child for his parents, first love, married love, mature love, and I guess you could say the end of love. So it explores really, it goes through all the stages of life and different types of love. It uses poetry and text from various sources. There's a little poem by Shakespeare in there. There's a little bit of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. There are some Serbian folk songs. And it's sort of like different movements, I guess you could describe it, different movements or different songs exploring these aspects of love. And then interspersed with those movements are sections that where I sing the words "I love you" in over 100 different languages.
Wow.
And so that kind of ties the piece together. And I think it's a really wonderful piece. Again, it explores many, many different aspects of the human voice and what you can do. So there are some beautiful moments. There are some funny moments. There are some really poignant moments, I think, and I've really enjoyed performing it. I've done it a couple of times, several times before in performance, and I think it's a beautiful piece. There's lots in it for everyone.
And it sort of leads me to my next question. I mean, the concert is going to make use of a lot of extended vocal techniques. Can you quickly talk about some of those techniques that you'll be using?
Sure. Well, for example, in Anna Sokolovich's piece, sometimes I sing on the inhaled breath. So typically when you sing, you exhale, just like when you're talking.
Right.
But in this piece, there's somewhere I sing on the inhaled breath. There's a bit of that also in Martin Arnold's piece, Janet. And then there are some extended techniques like overtone singing in Emily Doolittle's piece where I get to sing with the whale. So all the pieces explore all these different possibilities that you can do with your voice. And, you know, sometimes people think extended techniques are scary, like, oh, you're damaging your voice by doing that. But actually, it's like anything else. Once you learn to do it, it's perfectly doable.
Right. So, again, this piece with whales, I'm fascinated by this. And you're talking about the overtone. Are you singing two tones at the same time? Like, is it sort of, I don't want to say throat singing, but how does that work, Diana?
Well, maybe you could explain that better. You sing a low basic note, and then you hit a pitch quite a bit above that. So you're really singing two pitches in a manner of speaking. It's called multiphonics.
Yep, exactly. No, that's right, Diana. So it's using the resonant frequencies of your voice, and you sort of highlight one of the higher ones. So if you've heard Tuvan singing, that's the same kind of thing. So you sing a low note, and then you isolate one of the overtones, and you make it louder. So you can sing two notes at once. And so that's included in Emily's piece. But the other fun thing about Emily's piece is that it has, it's called a piece for voice and tape. Of course, we don't use tape anymore, but
right.
But I sing along with a recording of a whale. So it's like I get to sing a duet with the whale.
And how did the whale, who recorded the whale sounds?
Well, Emily is someone who's very interested in the sounds of nature. It's part of her practice as a composer. So she collects recordings of animals, birds, and things. And I think she didn't record this herself. She found this, I think, from a colleague who had been out recording whales, I think maybe in Iceland. But apparently, every spring, you can go to Newfoundland and hear the whales sing. It's something you hear particularly at mating season.
It's a beautiful sound.
It's an amazing sound. Just a very short anecdote. I had a student once who was from Newfoundland, and I was telling her about this piece. And she said, oh, yeah, we hear the whales. If I'm home in springtime, we hear the whales every spring at home. And I thought, isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow.
Especially for prairie people,
Yeah.
to hear whales singing.
Is there anything on the program that has been written specifically for tomorrow night's concert, or is it all works that you've performed before, Helen?
It's all music that I have performed before, but both Emily's piece, Social Sounds of Wales at Night and Martin Arnold's piece Janet were written for me, which is wonderful. And this is something I really love, is the chance to work with composers. So those were both commissioned. We got funding from the Canada Council, and they wrote those pieces specifically for me. I commissioned them. So then I get to talk to the composers, and we talk about what I have in mind and what they have in mind, and we get to collaborate.
Oh, that's amazing. This question is sort of for both of you, and I love asking this question when it comes to GroundSwell because of the unlimited textures and sounds that can be created with new music. Is there a moment on tomorrow night's concert or piece on tomorrow night's concert that you are particularly looking forward to hearing just because of the interesting sounds and textures?
Well, I'm looking forward to the whole concert. I mean, I think Helen Pridmore is fabulous. The piece that I'm doing of my own called Double Talk, which is a piece did you know there are little people that dwell in the two loudspeakers? They live in there. Well, I try to get them. They're very lethargic at first. I try to get them to communicate with me, and it takes a while during the piece. But for that piece, as Helen mentioned, I use all the extended vocal techniques that I so far can do, and mouth percussion and that kind of thing throughout the piece, and I love doing that.
Oh, wow.
I was sent home from school in grade 4 for doing that, believe it or not.
Yeah, I have a fair share of teachers that had words with me for the same reason. Yeah.
It was Mrs. Anderson, and I'd like to tell her I'm being paid to do it now. Okay.
That's great. Helen?
Anyway, it's a fun piece to perform, and I look forward to it, because Helen agreed to have it on the program because it really fits with her program as far as I'm concerned. It fits in very well because I'm using my own type of extended vocal techniques. And
that's great. Helen, how about you? Is there any moment that you're particularly looking forward to?
Well, I'm just excited to be performing in Winnipeg. I'm so glad to have this opportunity. So I'm excited about the whole program. But I think I love the love songs. I think that's a beautiful piece. I'm also excited to perform Martin Arnold's piece Janet, because that's another very interesting piece. It uses what we call audio gates. So Martin made a recording of acoustic instruments like guitars and banjos, and that plays while I sing, but it's triggered by how loud I sing.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes you hear a whole bunch of stuff, and sometimes you don't hear very much. And it's someone described this piece as like going into a little secret garden, and all these funny little sounds emerge that you didn't know were there. So I'm looking forward to that. But really the whole program, I think it's an exciting opportunity for sure.
So I'm just trying to figure this out from a technological standpoint. Is it just run off like a computer where it's gauging how loud you're singing?
Yeah. When Martin first wrote that piece, he has some kind of crazy little gadget that he made himself. And when I first performed the piece, I used that. But now we translated those files into a program called Ableton Live. So when I perform the piece tomorrow, it will be running off Ableton Live, which is on the computer.
Right.
So
Ableton Live?
Ableton Live, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a software program. A lot of people use it in dance clubs and stuff for dance music, but you can also use it to make crazy new music, which is what I do.
Oh, wow, that's great. Diana and Helen, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and telling us about tomorrow night's concert. It sounds absolutely fantastic.
I think it'll be a wonderful program, and Helen is wonderful, so don't miss it.
It sounds great. Helen?
Well, that's very kind of you, Diana, and I'm just excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Join GroundSwell tomorrow night for a concert that is surely going to be a feast for the senses. The concert takes place at the Muriel Richardson Auditorium at the Winnipeg Art Gallery and starts at 8 o'clock. For more information, you can go to gswell.ca.